What's up guys, and welcome back to TechPlant. Today I'm going to be showing you every single one of my Anthuriums. Let's check it out. We are going to start off this Anthurium marathon with one that I actually got on the day I filmed this, and that is Anthurium Vtyrifolium. This one is one I've been waiting for a long time. It's been on the wish list, but I never actually wanted to pay for one. This is also known as the King Anthurium, and it can get really big. I really love this one because it has really strong ridges that go all the way down the leaves, and as it gets older and bigger, the leaves just get longer. They don't get too much wider. Well, it depends if this is a narrow or wide form. Not sure yet. I'll only know once it actually grows out, but yeah, they get these really long ridges and the leaves hang down really low. I mean, they can be like 2 feet long and they're just absolutely stunning. And again, this one's always been on the wish list, so I'm super happy I could trade for one and have it in my collection. We'll see how it does as it adjusts to a new environment, but hopefully it does well. Next up is Anthurium Forgetti. This is another one that I've wanted as far as like trying to do breeding and stuff, because it has a very unique shape of all the velvet anthuriums, because it doesn't have the same earlobes that you see in like Magnificum, crystallinum, and just some of the other velvet anthuriums. I can't think of any others right now. I have one really little one that I got as a seedling a while back, and then this is also one that I got in a trade the day I'm filming this, so super happy to have more than one because I want to be able to breed them, so the more the merrier. This one can get decently large, and like I said, the real difference between like crystallinum or magnificum with this one is it doesn't have those ears. It's more oval shaped, and it's just pretty cool looking. I like that because it'll give me variety in shape when I try and cross or hybridize. This little seedling has been acting a little goofy though. It doesn't really get very long, and it's kind of pushing its leaves down into the dirt, weirdly enough, and I'm struggling to get it to have a happy leaf. Hopefully this new one turns out good, but I'm not really sure. This one is still kind of adjusting to my climate as well. This next Anthurium is a crystallinum, but this one is a special one. This is a massively hybridized one, and it is a red crystallinum. This one is a Tazula Dreamweaver cross with a Tazula Necromancer, and it's actually a 20 of 20 limited release, so there's not very many of these out here, which I like, only because hopefully I can get some pretty unique hybrids from this hybrid, and it'll just be something that I can not claim as my own, but it's just exciting. I don't know. This one is pretty beautiful, and I have started making hybrids with this already. It has been flowering, so things are doing well. The really cool thing about this red crystallinum that I have is I actually have two of them. One is much larger and one is much smaller. They were actually potted up together, so maybe this is like 20 and 21 out of 20. Either way, it's super cool because I have two of them, so I can even try and cross them both once the little one catches up and actually starts flowering. So very excited about these two. And honestly, their color is phenomenal. When you look at the newest leaves, it is just this beautiful purple pink color, and I love it. This is really a unique one, and I love it a lot. This next beauty is just a regular crystallinum, and I actually got this one as a tiny little cutting with one leaf with like a bite mark out of it, and it's absolutely massive. You've probably seen this one in my all my rare plants video, but this is really one of my favorite crystallinums because it's huge and the growth points are insane. This thing is just getting bigger and bigger by the day, constantly pushing out new growth. However, it's a little funky right now because I did repot this one maybe a month ago, and it seems to still be trying to get used to its new substrate and everything. I don't know what's going on with it. It's still pushing out new growth, but it's kind of mutated looking, and they're looking a little goofy. The coloration's a little off, but either way, this is a really massive Anthurium I have, and I can't wait for this one to start flowering because it should put out a lot of flowers just because there's so many growth points, and I can't wait to try and hybridize with this one as well. It's really awesome, and maybe I can get some cool stuff out of this one. This next one is Anthurium Radicans crossed with Luxurians. Some people have let me know that this one is probably sterile, so I can't really make hybrids with it, but it's still an awesome Anthurium to have in my collection. This one has insane texture, and I just love it. It grows really quick, and it seems super hardy actually, so if you ever can find a cheap one of these, definitely pick it up because it will just constantly blow your mind with the awesome leaves and its hardiness. I did pick up an actual Luxurians, and I'm waiting for it to be shipped to me just because I want to try and make some cool hybrids that look like this, and hopefully I can. But this is an outstanding plant, and I definitely recommend this one. This next one is Anthurium Efuso Lobum. Can't tell if I pronounced that one properly, but this is a relatively cheap one. However, it has a fantastic appearance. It's really a big leaf with an awesome shape, and I really love this. However, mine seems to crisp up a lot. I think the potting medium I have it in is draining almost too fast, and it starts to dry out and then crisp up. But for whatever reason, I can't keep this one happy. Maybe it needs higher humidity, I don't know. But I love this one for the shape of leaves It's got a lot of texture, and I really hope I can try and hybridize this one with something else, and maybe I can get that sweet texture and sweet shape, and maybe something a little more hardy out of it that isn't crisping up all the time. But I really love this one. This one is actually quite cheap, I think $20, and totally worth it because it's big and it's beautiful. I don't know if you'll notice in some of the other footage, but this one also has 2 growth points. A lot of my Anthuriums that I imported almost died, so this one was an Equigenera import, but it came back with a second growth, and it's really awesome. This next one is Anthurium Nauai, and I grew this one from a cutting, and I absolutely love this one. I don't see a lot of people talk about this plant, and I don't know why, because it seems like it's underrated actually. It has a really cool growth pattern, very compact, and super thick waxy leaves. This thing is so darn hardy and just looks absolutely beautiful. I love the leaves on this thing because, like I said, they're really thick, they're kind of floppy when they get big, and it just has a nice texture to it, and the growth pattern is cool. I mean, it's a really interesting Anthurium, and I really love this one in my collection, and I'm glad that I grew it from a cutting because it's really adapted to my environment really well. Recently, I did pluck some new berries for this one, not off of this plant, but off of a mother plant, and so this is what they look like. They're pretty purple and they're pretty awesome, and along with that, here are some seedlings that I am growing of this plant. So, very cool plant, and I hope to have a bunch more because I, again, want to hybridize. This is like my whole big thing with Anthuriums is I want to try and make hybrids, but this is a really cool plant to add to your collection. Next up is Anthurium scolopendrium, and this one is a little bit similar to that previous one. However, it's a lot more veiny and more leafy, not as much as like a rubbery waxy one like the previous one. This one is more like a typical leaf, but it's really awesome because they're really long and tall. I really like the compact growth of this one as well, and I have seen it flower once, which is pretty interesting. Wish I got footage, but the flowers are really short and towards the base, so hopefully I can catch that footage again in the future. But yeah, I really like this one. I am struggling to keep like tons of leaves on this one. It seems like as new ones come, old ones die off. Maybe that's normal, or maybe that's just my failures. I don't know. But again, I love this one because it has really nice veins and the leaves look beautiful. And again, it gets huge. And I'm pretty sure this one is pretty affordable too, so definitely check this one out. This next one is Anthurium Bumble, something like that. This one is really waxy and really velvety. It's a very odd one actually. The leaves are also super thick. They're almost like juicy thick. I almost lost this one actually. This one is an Equigenera import. Like I said, most of mine don't do super well when I get them, but they usually bounce back. This one, you can see the growth point actually died off, but there is a new growth point on the side. So it is doing okay, doing fine, and just a really weird, interesting one to see. It gets a pretty interesting like earlobed shape to it, so it is quite unique in its shape. And again, like I said, it's very thick, very waxy, very velvety, just a very odd Anthurium, and a cool little compact one to have in your collection. I really like this one. This one is Anthurium Compact or possibly Umbricola. Hard to say. This one is also an Equigenera import. Again, this one has 2 growth points because it kind of almost died and then came back stronger. And I've actually really grown to love this one. Because of the multiple growth points, it's so bushy and so awesome. And I'm finally starting to get some inflows on it, so it's going to be flowering. I've heard it might be sterile as well, and people struggle to cross-pollinate this one, but we'll see. I don't know. When I look at the flower, it is quite different. I've actually seen this on a few other Anthuriums. I don't really understand this like style of inflorescence. It's a little different from some of the other ones because I can't see any actual phases on this one as well, but we'll see. I've been rubbing pollen on this thing like every few days, so hopefully we can get something, but if not, still an awesome Anthurium to have in my collection. I love the texture on the leaves. They're fantastic, and it's just got a nice growth pattern and just fantastic. This one has really done good in my like 60% humidity environment, and I love it. I believe this one is also around the $30 mark. Honestly, almost every Anthurium you'll see in this video are relatively cheap. I don't have a bunch of super expensive ones. This next one is Anthurium Vtyrifolium. This one is seed grown actually by me. It's quite small still. I can't wait till it really starts to get those strap leaves, but it's doing pretty good for being seed grown. A lot of my other ones did not do so well. This is honestly the only one that really survived the first 2-3 leaves. Don't know what I really did wrong with them, but I have more berries, so I will try again. But I really love this guy, and I can't wait for it to get huge because I really love those giant strap leaves. They're almost like giant belts almost. They're crazy. They're like 3 feet long, and they just look fantastic. So I'm really waiting for this one to grow up. Plus, they seem to flower a lot, so maybe there's some potential for hybrids. By the way, here's some quick footage of one of these little mites. A lot of people see these in my videos and they think these are spider mites, but these are just harmless soil mites. Anything that moves this quick is usually harmless. All the pests are pretty slow moving, like in appearance, although they spread quick. They don't run around and sprint around. They usually just sit and eat your plants. So these are totally harmless. If you see these, don't worry about them. Next up is a personal favorite with a tragic story. This one is Anthurium Graciel, and I actually used to have like 4 or 5 huge mother plants and they all died. I screwed up and let them dry out and that was it. They were pretty much toast. However, I had a bunch of seedlings from them, so I'm not too worried. I probably have like 100 seedlings for a Graciel, and I just love them. They have an absolutely fantastic growth to them, and they're such early flowers. This is still only a seedling. I don't even know how many months old it is, but it's months, and it's already reproducing. They're crazy. They're awesome, and I love these, and they're really cheap. I highly recommend you pick up an Anthurium Graciel because they're awesome. These next Anthurium are Anthurium Encypholium, and I absolutely adore this plant. This is one of my favorite. These are actually all seed grown except for 2 of them, which were cuttings, but they're really fantastic hardy plants. And of all my plants in my collection, these are by far the rarest. Like I've said in my rare plant video, there's probably only 20 to 25 people in the US that has this plant, and I've given like a few of these away to people, which is why the numbers have grown, because I have a whole bunch of seeds and I just love this. This is a really special plant to me. The way I got it through an awesome friend of mine, it just makes it super special, and I love it. It has such a cool growth. It's very similar to almost like a strapleaf Anthurium. However, it's not. Almost like a Graciel, but almost not. I don't know. I really have fallen in love with this one, and it does really well in my setup, except for I burned some of them a little bit with some neem oil, but either way, fantastic, and I love them. Here's the 2 that were actual cuttings off of a mother plant, which I got the seeds from, but the problem is they're not adapting well to my environment. One of them you can see is quite yellow and poor. I almost lost that one to root rot. It started some new growths, but all those new growths have slowed down. The only other one is doing pretty okay. It's actually flowering, which is good, and producing new growth, but it's nothing good like my actual seedlings are doing. Those are doing amazing in my setup. But either way, I'm keeping this one because it's flowering, and I will use it to collect pollen. I do have 2 bins of seedlings, so I'm really working on growing my numbers. I want to keep hybridizing these ones because I feel like because it's pretty uncommon. Also, when I say it's super rare, it's rare, but it's also undesirable. There isn't like millions of people clamoring to get a hold of one of these, so as much as it's rare, it's like not really valuable, but it's a cool opportunity for me to try and hybridize the heck out of it and see if I can get anything interesting, because it's rare enough to where like not everyone else is like chasing hybrids with this one, so I really love it. This one is Anthurium Purpperium. That's a little tongue twister. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but this one is also seed grown by me, which is why I think it's done so well in my environment. But I do love this plant. It has such textured leaves. They're such a deep green. They've got this like slight waxy feel, but they're not super thick and juicy, and they're just awesome. It's got a very nice growth pattern. It doesn't get super like long and like stringy, just a nice compact like rosette style growth, I would almost call it, but it's fantastic. I really love it. This one isn't really rare either. It's a very common one, and if you look it up online and see like the scientific images from like where it's grown, it's always like chewed up by bugs. So this poor guy is like the victim of like caterpillars, snails, and like everything else in the Anthurium world. It's definitely chewed on a lot from the pictures I can see, but I love it. It's really cool. These next 2 are like a giant bird's nest style Anthurium. I really forget which they are. I don't have a tag for them. These are seed grown from me as well. That's why they're doing pretty darn good in my environment. You can see they're not crispy at all. I think like any seed grown stuff does really well in, I would assume, even your environments if you grow them from seed, especially if you start with a lot, because the ones that die off just weren't meant to be, and the ones that survive, they were. It's survival of the fittest. But anyways, I like these because there's a little bit of a variety between these 2. One is a much more narrow growth and the other is much more shorter and wide, and I love it because that's how cool seeds are, is they can express differently, and maybe I can make some cool hybrids, so we shall see. These next ones are Anthurium Magnificum, very similar to that crystallinums that you've seen previously. These are all seed grown in my environment. I did lose a lot of seedlings previously, but the ones that survived seem to be doing okay. Honestly, these velvet Anthuriums I struggle with a little bit. I just can't seem to get it perfectly right, but I love them anyways, and they can make some cool hybrids, so I'm going to try and keep as many as I can. I probably have like 30 of these seedlings going pretty strong at this point, so it's pretty cool. At one point, I did have an Equigenera import of a Magnificum, but that one died and was toast in like a few weeks, so it really goes to show that if you grow from seed in your environment, they tend to do a little bit better. Here's just some shots, I guess, of some hybrids that I have growing. The ones in the cup, I believe, are red crystallinum with Magnificum, so that'll be very interesting to see because it's at least an interesting cross. So far the color looks pretty generic. Maybe I got to cross the children. There's a lot I got to learn about hybridizing. I'm just kind of experimenting with successful pollination right now. But yeah, you can see a bunch of different hybrids. In this bin is another, I don't know if it's necessarily a hybrid. I'm pretty sure it was Magnificum with another like super big old Magnificum. And for whatever reason though, they are growing so hardy. Like I can't even begin to describe. Like I've grown a lot of Magnificum from seedling over the past year, and they just don't do that great in bins. They almost look like the previous cup that I showed you, but these ones are going nuts. I don't know if it's because they're from really strong stock, but they're seriously growing so much faster than I've ever seen in these bins, and they're getting big, and they're not getting like all malnourished looking. They're going ham, so I'm really delighted because these could be like really good, like hardy, vigorous seedlings, and I would love that because that means I can hybridize them with something else, and maybe we can keep that like virality going, or I don't know what the word is, but they're awesome. I love it. This bin is doing fantastic, and I can't wait to pot them up. I got some other seedlings in a bin that are doing like iffy, kind of okay. I forget what these ones are even called. I lost the tag. But they're doing all right. Some of them hopefully make it, but some obviously do not look like they're going to make it. And some even look like they're albino or completely variegated. A little nervous about that because usually it means it's not going to make it when they're just all white like that. But maybe it'll put out a green leaf and we can have like every other leaf comes out white, every other one comes out green. It could be cool, so we'll just leave it be and see what happens. But there's some potential here. Lastly, I can take you back to just where I'm growing these plants. A lot of people like to know where I'm growing things. I'll do more dedicated guides in the future on anthuriums and the different ones I have, but I just have them under some Barina grow lights. You can see there's a lot of gaps back here. That's because all the ones in the video are still off the shelf. So these are all just the extra seedlings I have sitting around. So if anyone wants to make some trades or something, I really like trading anthuriums. I'm probably never going to sell these because I want to keep some in stock. So that way I have like breeding stock. I want to have multiples of everything, so I'm not struggling to get inflows, struggling to get pollen. I want it to be bountiful. But again, I'm always willing to trade for different anthuriums, and I'm not looking for like really rare, expensive anthuriums. I'm just looking for a variety at this point. I just want different like DNA basically to add to the collection. So yeah, hit me up on Instagram. I answer all my DMs, so whatever. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing all these different anthuriums. I mean, my collection has grown quite a bit over the past years, and I've really grown fond of anthuriums specifically. I just like their potential, their growth, and everything. I'm not an expert on them yet. I still kill them from time to time, but it's a process, and I am learning. Also, lastly, just to kind of close out this video, I am kind of debating doing some live streaming since I have so many seedlings. I got a lot of berries that need to be processed. There's just a lot of things that need to be done in the plant room, but I don't really make dedicated videos to because it just makes the chores even longer. But a live stream I think would be easier because the camera just sits, keeps on rolling, and we can just kind of sit and chat and do what we need to do. Let me know if you'd be interested in that in the comments because I've really been thinking about it, but I don't know if there's enough interest. But yeah, just let me know in the comments. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope maybe you saw some new species you might want to collect. Again, most of them are only in like the $20 to $30 range, so they're really affordable and they're not like super rare, so you can definitely get your hands on most of these, and they're awesome and just interesting to add to the collection. If you want to see more videos like this of just like entire collections or entire grow room or whatever, let me know in the comments and I'll try and make some more like this. It was pretty fun to actually go through all my plants and basically relabel them because I forgot what half of them were called. Anyways guys, as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.